The galaxy was quiet that night, the stars burning like ancient watchful eyes. Beyond the silver hull of the alien royal star palace that drifted in orbit around a dying red sun. Inside the colossal ship, thousands of alien nobles moved like shadows through glass corridors that glowed with blue light, whispering about the human engineer assigned to their sacred systems. His name was Elias Ward, a quiet man from the Terran colonies, sent by the Galactic Peace Treaty to serve as a maintenance officer. Humans were no longer feared, no longer free. They were servants, technicians, cleaners, and translators for the alien empires that once trembled at their name. But Elias was different. He still carried the old spark, the human curiosity that could not be controlled by fear. For weeks, Elias worked in the lower decks of the Royal Star Palace, checking air systems, power conduits, and coolant chambers. The aliens barely noticed him. A simple human in a gray uniform, moving silently through the halls. But that night something unusual happened. An emergency signal flashed through his wrist console. One of the oxygen regulators had failed deep within the restricted royal wing. He grabbed his toolkit and ran, unaware that this mistake would change the fate of the galaxy. The corridors twisted like veins of light. Endless and confusing, Elias followed the signs in alien script, each glowing symbol unfamiliar yet beautiful. He reached a sealed door with strange markings. It was colder here, silent as if time itself had stopped. He tapped his console and the scanner beeped, recognizing his access code. The door slid open with a hiss of ancient air. Inside, golden light spilled from tall crystal pillars that pulsed softly, illuminating what looked like a throne room, but quieter. Older, sleeping. At the center stood a cryopod, covered in vines of silver cables. A holographic plaque glowed faintly above it, showing the words in alien script, Her Majesty. Queen Lysera, do not disturb the eternal rest. Elias froze. Realizing he had entered the Queen's chambers, panic surged through him. This was a forbidden zone. No human was allowed beyond the servant quarters. He tried to step back, but his boot brushed against a cable. A spark flashed, the cryopod hummed. Lights flared across the room. The systems that had slept for centuries awoke. Steam hissed, metal plates shifted. And the pod began to open. Elias dropped his tools, his heart pounding. A tall, elegant figure slowly emerged from the mist. A woman-like alien with skin of pale gold, her eyes glowing with soft, luminescent amber. She wore a royal mantle that shimmered like starlight, and when she spoke, her voice was calm but commanding. Who awakens me? She asked, her words echoing like a whisper across the centuries. Elias stammered, unable to find words. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm just a maintenance worker. The Queen tilted her head. Studying him for a moment, she said nothing, her gaze sharp and thoughtful. Then to Elias's shock, she smiled faintly. A human, she whispered. It has been a long time since I saw one of your kind. Suddenly, alarms blared through the chamber. Red lights flashed. Guards in silver armor stormed in with plasma lances raised. Elias raised his hands, expecting death. The commander shouted, Your Majesty, step back. The human has trespassed. But before they could fire, the Queen raised her hand, her voice like thunder wrapped in silk. Leave him, she ordered. The guards froze, confused. Your Majesty, he violated the sacred chamber, one protested. I said leave him, the Queen repeated, her tone sharp as a blade. Reluctantly they obeyed, retreating slowly. The door sealing behind them, Elias stood trembling, unable to understand why she had spared him. The Queen stepped closer, her eyes glowing brighter now. Tell me, human, she said softly, what year is it? Year 7291 by Galactic Standard, Elias replied quietly. She looked away, her expression unreadable. So long, she murmured, so much lost. Elias dared to speak. Your Majesty, I didn't mean to disturb you. I was following a malfunction alert. She turned to him again, her gaze almost kind. You are brave to walk into the unknown, she said, even by mistake. Her voice carried something deeper. Sadness, maybe recognition. She walked toward the massive window overlooking the red sun. When I last saw humans, she said slowly, they were not servants. They were warriors who defied the stars. Elias blinked, confused. Warriors? He repeated. She nodded, her tone low and heavy. Yes, they saved my life once, long ago. The air around them shimmered with ancient energy, as if the palace itself remembered her words. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to ask more, but the Queen turned back to him and whispered, Come to me tomorrow, human. There are things you must see. Before he could answer, the royal guards returned, ordered by the council to take him away. But the queen's voice echoed once more, calm and absolute. He is under my protection, she declared. The guards bowed, their faces pale, and stepped back. Elias was escorted out of the chamber, his mind racing with confusion and awe. He had walked into the wrong room, but somehow, destiny had opened the right door. Behind him, the Queen of the Empire stood watching through the glass. Her golden eyes reflected both sorrow and hope, whispering to the empty air, "The humans will rise again." The corridors of the Royal Star Palace were silent the next morning. Every alien officer whispered the same question. Why is the human still alive? Elias Ward walked carefully through the shining halls, feeling every gaze burning into his back. He had been ordered to report to the Queen again, something no human had ever experienced. 2 royal guards escorted him through winding golden corridors that smelled faintly of ozone and incense. Each step echoed like a countdown to something he could not understand. When the doors of the Queen's chamber opened, the air changed. Inside, the vast room glowed softly with blue-white light. Like the heart of a star, Queen Lysera stood by the tall glass window, her long silver robes flowing like living light. She turned when he entered, her golden eyes calm yet full of ancient storms. "Come closer, human," she said quietly. "You awakened me, now you deserve to know what you have awakened." Elias approached slowly, his heartbeat loud in his ears. "I didn't mean to disturb you." "Your Majesty," he said, keeping his head low. The Queen smiled faintly. "Sometimes destiny hides behind accidents," she replied. With a graceful motion, she waved her hand and the floor lit up, forming a holographic sphere of stars, spinning like a miniature galaxy. "This," she said, "is the archive of truth the Empire forbids anyone to see." The lights shifted, revealing images of burning planets and fleets locked in battle. Elias stared in shock as human warships appeared, massive, angular, beautiful, marked with the insignia of the United Earth Fleet. "These are humans," he whispered, unable to believe his eyes. "Yes," the Queen answered, her voice soft but filled with awe. "Humans once ruled the stars beside us." She pointed to one ship larger than all the rest, a colossal supercarrier with the name Valor Prime. "That ship," she said, "was commanded by a human who saved my world." Elias stepped closer to the hologram, his reflection dancing in the light. The archive showed ancient battles, alien armadas retreating before human forces, then a great silence, the human fleets vanishing into darkness. "The Council erased it all," the Queen whispered. "They wanted the galaxy to forget humanity's strength." Her voice trembled slightly. "They made me forget too." Elias looked up confused. "Forget? You mean they changed your memory?" She nodded, her golden eyes dim for a moment. "They took my memories of the human commander who ended the war. They made me believe he was a myth," she said. "But when you entered my chamber, something in the ancient systems recognized your genetic code. It woke the sealed archive." Elias felt his knees weaken. "My genetic code?" "Yes," she said. "You carry traces of the old command line, the bloodline of the Terran fleet captains." Elias stared at her, lost between fear and wonder. "I'm just an engineer," he said softly. "I fix broken machines." "I don't command anything," the Queen smiled sadly. "Perhaps, but fate does not care about what you think you are. It calls who it must." Before he could answer, the chamber lights flickered. A harsh voice broke through the silence. An alien officer's hologram appeared. Bowing low, "Your Majesty," he said nervously, "the Council demands to know why the human still lives." The Queen's expression turned cold as ice. "Tell them their curiosity will cost them their throne if they question me again," she said. The officer vanished, leaving a heavy silence behind. The Queen looked back at Elias, her tone softer now. "They fear you, though they do not yet know why," she said. Elias frowned. "Fear me? I'm nobody." "You are a reminder," she replied. A spark from a fire they tried to extinguish. She walked toward a pedestal and pressed her hand on a crystalline panel. A secret door slid open, revealing a narrow passage filled with flickering blue light. "Come," she said. "There is more you must see." They stepped into the tunnel, walls carved from smooth silver stone that pulsed like veins of energy. The air felt older here, filled with echoes of forgotten history. At the end of the passage stood a massive sealed door with the human symbol, an eagle with spread wings. etched deep into the metal. Elias felt something stir in his chest as if the symbol recognized him. He reached out, his fingers trembling, and touched the mark. The door responded with a hum, ancient systems awakening. Blue light surged across the walls and the seal unlocked for the first time in centuries. Inside was a chamber filled with artifacts, human tools, data drives and uniforms sealed in transparent cases. Elias stepped closer to one of the glass containers, reading the faded letters. United Earth Navy, Command Branch, his heart pounded, the realization hitting him like a storm. This is our history, he said softly. The Queen nodded, her eyes glowing again. The Empire buried it under lies, she said. But truth has a way of waking when the time is right. Elias turned to her. Why show me this, Your Majesty? Because you are the only one who can understand it, she said, and perhaps the only one who can bring it back. Before he could speak, the chamber lights dimmed again. From the corridor behind them came distant echoes of boots and voices, guards searching. The council had learned too much. The Queen's expression hardened. They will try to silence us, she said, but the truth cannot be locked away again. She handed Elias a small silver cube glowing faintly. Take this, she whispered. It contains the coordinates to what remains of your people's legacy. Elias gripped the cube tightly, feeling its warmth through his gloves. I don't understand what's happening, he said. You will, she replied, when you see what lies beyond the stars. The sound of the approaching guards grew louder. The Queen turned toward the door and raised her hand, light swirling around her. Go now, she commanded. Follow the hidden corridors to the lower hangar. My sentinels will aid you. Elias hesitated. But what about you? The Queen smiled faintly. Do not worry for me, human. I have awakened from centuries of silence. I will not be silent again. Elias nodded, turned and disappeared into the glowing tunnels. Behind him, Queen Lysera stood tall before the storm of her own empire. The forbidden archives shimmered around her like ghosts of forgotten glory. And far away, the stars seemed to flicker brighter, as if remembering the name human once again. The tunnels beneath the Royal Star Palace were quiet and endless, lit only by the soft hum of energy veins glowing faint blue. Elias ran through the winding corridors, clutching the small silver cube the Queen had given him. Behind him, the distant echo of alien boots faded slowly into silence. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just a mechanic or a servant, he was a fugitive, carrying a secret powerful enough to shake empires. He stopped near a junction, gasping for breath. The cube flickered in his palm, projecting faint holographic symbols that rotated slowly in the air. The patterns looked like coordinates. Not of any known star system, Elias frowned, whispering, What are you trying to show me? Before he could figure it out, a soft metallic voice spoke behind him. You should not be here, human. Elias turned quickly, ready to defend himself, but instead of a soldier, he saw a tall humanoid figure of shining black armor, an ancient sentinel. Its eyes glowed with gentle blue light, its tone calm yet powerful. I am Guardian Unit 7, it said. Her Majesty ordered me to guide you. Elias relaxed slightly. You're one of her machines, he said. I am more than that, the sentinel replied. I was built by your kind. Long before the Empire rose, the words hit Elias like thunder. What do you mean by my kind? He asked. The sentinel stepped closer, its movements smooth and quiet. Humans built the first alliance with Queen Lysera's ancestors. You fought beside them in the Great Expansion Wars, it said. Elias stared in disbelief. That's impossible. We were told humans were never part of those wars. Because the Council erased you, the sentinel replied, its voice echoing softly through the metallic hall. They feared what humans could become again. Elias followed the sentinel through the dark halls until they reached a circular chamber filled with broken statues and rusted banners. Each statue depicted a figure, human and alien, standing side by side holding weapons and flags of unity. Dust floated in the golden light that streamed from the cracked ceiling above. This is the Hall of Origins, the sentinel said, built to honor those who saved the galaxy, then buried by those who feared them. Elias looked at one statue near the center. It was of a human man in a long coat, standing proudly beside a younger version of Queen Lysera. Underneath, a single word glowed faintly through the dust, Captain Arden Ward. Elias froze, his heartbeat suddenly loud. My last name, he whispered. Ward. The sentinel turned toward him. The Queen suspected it, it said. You are his descendant. Elias felt the air leave his lungs. The man in the statue, his ancestor, had once fought beside the Queen. He stepped closer, brushing the dust away from the engraved plaque. The inscription read, "For saving the Queen of Etherian and ending the War of Shadows." Humanity remembers, Elias whispered. We forgot. But she didn't. Suddenly, a hidden door at the back of the chamber slid open. Queen Lizera stepped inside, her robes glowing faintly in the dim light. You found it, she said softly, her voice both proud and sad. Elias turned to her, still speechless. Why didn't anyone tell us this? The Queen sighed. Because the council made me forget too. She walked closer, her gaze distant as she spoke. After the War of Shadows ended, my mind was wiped by the Imperial Council. They erased every trace of the humans who fought for me. They said it was for peace, but it was fear, she continued, her tone heavy with old grief. They feared the unity between our species, feared that if humans and Etherians stood together, no power could control the stars. Elias clenched his fists, anger burning quietly inside him. They turned us into servants, he said, into slaves of the same empire we helped build. The Queen looked at him with regret in her eyes. Yes, and I let them do it because I no longer remembered the truth. But when you walked into my chamber, something in my genetic memory woke up, she said. Your presence reactivated my neural imprints. And I remembered him, Captain Arden Ward. Elias felt a shiver down his spine. What was he like? He asked quietly. She smiled faintly, her golden eyes softening. He was stubborn, brave, and full of fire, she said. He refused to bow even when surrounded by fleets. He taught me that power means nothing without honor, she added, her voice trembling slightly. Her gaze met his. You have his eyes, she said, the same human defiance. Before Elias could answer, the ground trembled slightly. The Queen looked up sharply. The Council has activated the palace lockdown, she said. They know I've reactivated the archives. A metallic hum filled the air as energy barriers shimmered across the tunnels. Sealing every exit, Elias looked around. What do we do now? The Queen turned to the Sentinel. Guardian, initiate Exodus protocol, she commanded. The Sentinel nodded and pressed its hand to the wall, revealing another hidden path that led deeper underground. They hurried through the narrow passage, the air heavy with heat and static energy. As they moved, the Queen continued speaking, her tone lower now, almost like she was talking to herself. There is a ship hidden beneath this palace. The last of the human carriers, sealed before the purge, she said. Elias stared in disbelief. A human ship here. She nodded. Your ancestor ordered it buried here, safe from the Council. Waiting for a signal that humanity would rise again. The tunnel opened into a vast underground hangar, filled with ancient machines covered in layers of dust and light. In the center stood a massive silhouette, sleek, angular, and unmistakably human. The name on its side glowed faintly through the grime. Vanguard's Echo. Elias stopped in awe, his voice a whisper. It's real. The Queen smiled, a tear glinting in her golden eye. Yes, and now it's yours. For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the dormant engines filled the silence like the heartbeat of something waiting to awaken. Elias stepped forward, placing his hand on the cold metal hull. It was like touching history, like shaking hands with the ghosts of those who had built the stars. Behind him, the Queen said softly, They tried to erase your kind, Elias Ward. But they forgot one thing. Humans do not fade. They adapt, they return. He turned toward her, his expression filled with quiet determination. Then let's remind them who we were, he said. The Queen nodded slowly, her eyes blazing like twin suns. The galaxy is about to remember, she whispered high above the palace. The crimson glow of the dying sun poured through the glass spires, casting long shadows over the council chamber. 12 alien lords sat in silence, their silver eyes fixed on the glowing hollow screen that showed the Queen walking beside a human. A human inside the restricted zones of the royal palace. The first counselor's voice was low and cold. The Queen has awakened the archives, another hissed, and she dares to consort with a human. They must be stopped before the past spreads again, the eldest said. If the galaxy remembers the humans, the Empire's order will collapse. The room trembled as the decision was made. Activate protocol silence, the first counselor commanded. Erase them both. Dark ships left the capital soon after, their purpose clear. Assassination. Down below, unaware of the shadow closing in, Elias and Queen Lizera stood before the buried warship Vanguard's Echo. The ship was enormous, stretching across the cavern like a sleeping titan. Its dark metal hull was marked with ancient scars of battle and faint lines of light that pulsed like veins beneath the dust. Elias placed his palm on a glowing control panel near the bridge hatch. It scanned him, and a mechanical voice spoke for the first time in centuries. Genetic signature confirmed, descendant of Captain Arden Ward. Authorization granted. The massive engines flickered to life, shaking the cavern with deep thunder. Ancient systems hummed awake, lights flickered across the hull, and holographic readouts filled the chamber. Queen Lizera stepped back in awe, her golden eyes wide. "The machine remembers," she whispered, "after all this time. It still remembers humanity." Elias smiled faintly, though his hands trembled. "It's like it was waiting for us." But before they could celebrate, alarms flared red across the cavern walls. The Sentinel Guardian's voice echoed. "Hostile crafts approaching. Multiple life signatures detected." The Queen's expression hardened. "The Council has found us." From the upper tunnel, a squad of armored soldiers poured in, their weapons glowing with violet plasma. "By order of the Galactic Council, surrender the human and shut down the ship," their leader shouted. Elias stepped in front of the Queen without thinking, his eyes blazing with fear and resolve. "Not a chance," he said under his breath. The first blast hit the ground near them, sending shards of molten metal across the floor. The Sentinel leaped forward, its body glowing with ancient energy, deflecting the next shots with a burst of light. "Her Majesty, get aboard," it ordered, its voice mechanical yet alive with purpose. Elias grabbed the Queen's hand and pulled her toward the ship's ramp. The Vanguard's Echo opened like a breathing creature, revealing a corridor lined with blue light and steel. As they ran, the Queen looked back at the chaos, her face caught between fury and sorrow. "They are killing their own to keep control," she whispered. "My people have become slaves to fear." Elias stopped for a moment and looked at her. "Then let's break their chains," he said. They reached the command deck, a vast circular room filled with dead screens and floating consoles. Elias placed the silver cube into the main control port, and the ship's AI activated. "System core awakening," it said. "Primary directives restored." A holographic figure appeared in the center of the bridge, a woman made of light with calm human features. "Welcome home, Captain Ward," she said. Her voice smooth and kind. Elias froze, his breath caught. "I'm not the captain," he said. "I'm his descendant." The AI paused, then nodded gently. Bloodline continuity detected. "Legacy command restored." The Queen stepped beside him. "Can this ship still fly?" she asked. The AI's expression changed slightly. "If you believe it can, Your Majesty." The walls rumbled again. This time from above, the enemy ships had begun drilling into the cavern roof. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain. Glowing red under the emergency lights, Elias looked at the control panel, his hands hovering over the glowing symbols. He didn't understand half of them, but something inside guided him, like old instincts waking from his blood. "Power to engines," he said. "Activate flight mode." The ship groaned, ancient plates shifting, dust blasting away as engines roared like thunder for the first time in ages. Outside, the Council soldiers fell back, their armor melting from the heat as the massive warship began to rise. A golden light filled the chamber as the Vanguard's Echo broke free from its tomb. Above the palace, civilians looked up in shock as the sky split open and a human warship ascended. The Queen stood beside Elias, her robes whipping in the wind of the rising engines. "This will terrify them," she said quietly, "and inspire everyone else." Elias nodded. "Then let's make sure they never forget this day." The ship broke through the upper crust of the palace hangar. Bursting into the stormy alien sky, dozens of Council interceptors swarmed to intercept, forming a black halo around the Queen's ship. Elias turned to the AI. "Can we defend ourselves?" The AI's eyes flickered. "Weapons systems at 20%. Targeting active." "Then that will have to do," he said. The first wave of plasma fire hit the shields. Shaking the deck, Elias gritted his teeth. "Return fire." Blue energy beams erupted from the ship's turrets, cutting through the enemy lines like knives through water. Explosions lit the dark clouds as alien ships spiraled downward in flames. The Queen watched silently, her voice trembling. "This is what they feared. This is what they buried," Elias answered without looking at her. "And this is what we are." Moments later, a transmission cut through the static. It was the first counselor's voice. Filled with venom. Queen Lysera, you are committing treason. Surrender now or face annihilation. The queen walked up to the holocom and stared straight at his image. Her golden eyes burned like suns. You call truth treason, she said calmly. Then I will gladly be guilty. She ended the transmission and turned to Elias. Set a course, she said. Where to, he asked. To where it all began, she replied. To the coordinates stored in that cube, the origin of humanity's light. The ship turned sharply, vanishing into the red horizon behind them. The Empire's fleets ignited their engines. The greatest chase in galactic history had begun, and far below, on every world that saw the ancient human warship rise again, whispers began to spread. The whispers of a forgotten name, humans, they said, have returned. The stars ahead stretched like rivers of silver light as Vanguard's echo crossed the red horizon. Elias stood at the command bridge, staring at the coordinates glowing on the screen. They led far beyond the mapped systems, past the borders of the Empire, into the black silence of forgotten space. Queen Lysera stood beside him, her golden eyes calm but unreadable. Those coordinates, she said softly, they belong to a system that was erased from all galactic charts 3 centuries ago. Elias turned to her. You mean they deleted a whole star system? Yes, she said, because it was human. The engines hummed as they entered hyperspace, the star lines blurring into glowing trails around the ship. Elias walked to the main display, where the AI projected fragments of old data recovered from the cube. It showed the system once known as Solara 9, a human colony that vanished during the purge. Thousands of humans lived there, the AI said. Before the council silenced all records, Elias clenched his fists. Then that's where we'll find what's left of them. Hours passed as the ship drifted through the silent void. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace, the sight before them stole their breath. A field of shattered moons and broken metal floated around a pale star. Wreckage of old human warships spun slowly through the emptiness like ghosts. For a moment no one spoke, the queen whispered. A graveyard. Elias felt a hollow ache in his chest. They erased us completely, he said, and left us to rust among the stars. But as the ship drifted closer, something strange began to happen. Sensors detected faint signals, pulses of energy coming from deep inside the debris. The AI's tone changed. Unidentified transmission detected, it said. Ancient human frequency, Elias leaned forward. Patch it through, a faint voice filled the bridge, old and broken, repeating the same words over and over. Command signal Alpha, standby protocol. Awaiting human authentication. Elias's heart raced. It's still alive, he said. He pressed his hand on the control panel, sending his DNA code through the signal. The bridge lights dimmed as the entire graveyard began to stir one by one. Massive shapes lit up across the darkness, hulks of ancient warships reactivating after centuries of silence. Their engines burned faint blue, their hulls marked with the faded eagle of Earth's fleet. Queen Lysera stepped closer to the glass, her voice barely a whisper. You didn't find a graveyard, Elias, you found an army. Hundreds of ships slowly aligned themselves into formation. The AI scanned them, its voice trembling with digital awe. Fleet identification confirmed, 7th Terran Battle Group, dormant for 317 years. Power systems restoring. Elias could hardly breathe. They've been waiting. All this time, the Queen looked at him. For you, she said softly. For the bloodline that would wake them again. Suddenly, the communications console flashed red, multiple enemy signals entering the system. The Empire has followed us, the AI warned. Fleet size, 30 destroyers, 5 dreadnoughts. Elias took a deep breath, steadying himself. Then it's time humanity woke up properly. He opened the intercom, his voice echoing through the ship. All hands, prepare for battle, he said. Though the crew were only sentinels and automated drones, somehow his words still felt alive, reaching through the centuries to the ghosts of those who once stood here. Outside, the Empire's fleet formed a black line across the stars. Their admiral's voice cut through the channel, dripping with arrogance. Human relics, he sneered. You should have stayed buried, Elias replied calmly. We tried, but your kind wouldn't let us rest. The first volley struck, plasma beams tearing across space. Elias gritted his teeth. Activate defensive grid, he ordered. The awakened human ships responded instantly, shields flaring blue. Then the Vanguard's echo roared to life. its main cannons charging with energy older than the Empire itself. "Target locked," the AI announced. "Fire!" The blast cut across the void, slicing through an enemy dreadnought in a single hit. The explosion lit up the system like a new sunrise. The Queen watched in awe. "No weapon in the galaxy matches this," she said. Elias smiled faintly. "That's because no one builds like humans." The Empire's fleet broke formation, panic spreading among them. They had never seen such power, not from the species they called servants, but the battle wasn't over. The Queen activated her royal signal, broadcasting to every nearby world. Her voice carried strength and defiance. "To all who hear this," she said, "the truth is awake. Humanity lives, and the lies of the Council end tonight." Across the Empire's channels, chaos erupted. Alien soldiers refused orders. Colonies sent out distress calls and rebel groups rose in open defiance. The story of the human fleet's return spread faster than light, the AI reported. Multiple transmissions received, other ships requesting alliance under your command. Elias turned to the Queen. "Looks like we've started something." She nodded, her eyes bright. "A rebellion." As the last enemy ship exploded in a cloud of golden fire, the resurrected human fleet surrounded the Vanguard's Echo in perfect formation. Elias stood on the bridge, looking out into the stars that had once forgotten his kind. He whispered, "We're back." The Queen smiled. "And the galaxy will never be the same again, on our way." Deep within the capital world, the Council watched the chaos unfold. The first counselor slammed his hand on the console, his voice trembling with rage. "Destroy them," he shouted, "before they awaken more of the old ones." But it was already too late. The humans were awake, their ships alive, their legend reborn, and across the endless dark, the stars began to whisper once more. "Fear the humans," they said, "for they have returned." The galaxy was no longer silent. For the first time in centuries, the stars burned with rebellion, from the edge of the Orion Arm to the cold moons of the outer rings. Enslaved species rose up, inspired by the broadcast of Queen Lysera and the awakening of the human fleet. Every world that had bowed to the Empire now looked to the sky. Waiting, hoping, believing aboard Vanguard's Echo, Elias Ward stood at the command bridge, surrounded by holographic projections of Allied fleets forming across the sectors. Dozens of transmissions lit the air, alien captains pledging loyalty to the Queen's cause. Lysera watched quietly beside him, her golden eyes shimmering with both pride and fear. "The Council will strike with everything they have," she said softly. Elias nodded. "Then we'll show them what everything really means." The AI appeared between them, its calm voice carrying a note of reverence. "Human command fleet now operational," it said. 72 warships under your banner. 6 alien factions joining your side." Elias exhaled slowly. Not bad for a species they thought was extinct. Across the void, the Council's armadas began to gather. Thousands of black warships assembling in the dark like a storm about to swallow the stars. At the center of it all, the Imperial dreadnought Leviathan, the largest warship ever built, waited like a god of death. The first counselor himself commanded it, determined to erase both the Queen and the humans forever. Inside Vanguard's Echo, tension thickened. Elias stared at the holographic projection of the enemy fleet. "We're outnumbered 20-1, he said quietly. The Queen answered. "Then they'll need 20 to replace each of us." The human fleet began to move, engines roaring with the fury of ancient vengeance. Every ship bore the eagle insignia once feared across the stars, now glowing bright again. "Transmit battle code Human Dawn," Elias ordered. The AI's voice echoed through every vessel. "Code Human Dawn confirmed. All units engage." The stars lit up as thousands of weapons fired at once. Blue beams and plasma storms tore through the void. The first wave of enemy ships disintegrated, their wreckage scattering across the battlefield like sparks of dying suns. But the Empire's numbers were endless. For every dreadnought destroyed, 2 more took its place. Elias gripped the railing, his heart pounding. The bridge shook as the ship absorbed another hit. Shields flickering. "Status!" he shouted. "Shields at 60%, the AI replied. But holding, the Queen stood tall beside him, her voice calm even as explosions shook the deck. "Our fleets must see strength, not fear," she said. "Because fear is the Empire's greatest weapon." Elias looked at her, nodding slowly. "Then let's give them something to believe in." He activated the wideband channel, broadcasting across all frequencies. "This is Elias Ward of Earth," he said, his voice echoing through every allied ship. "For centuries they made us servants. They called us extinct. They erased our history. But look outside. Humanity never died. It waited, it adapted. And now it fights back." His words cut through the chaos like fire through darkness. Across the fleet, cheers and battle cries rose in answer. The Vanguard's echo led the charge, diving straight into the heart of the Empire's formation. Enemy ships surrounded it from all sides, their weapons burning. The AI's tone grew sharper. "Incoming fire." "Magnitude extreme," Elias shouted. "All power to forward shields, return fire." The ship's main cannon glowed like a miniature sun and fired again. A shockwave rippled through space as the beam tore the Leviathan's escort ships apart. The Queen steadied herself, her eyes fierce. "They will not stop until one of us is gone." Elias looked at her and smiled faintly. "Then we'll make sure it's them." But deep within the Empire's flagship, the Council had a final weapon. The first counselor turned to his engineers. "Activate the null wave," he commanded. A device the size of a moon began to glow, designed to drain all energy across thousands of kilometers. Within moments, human ships began to lose power. Lights flickering, engines failing. "Elias," the AI said urgently. "Our systems are collapsing." The Queen gripped the console. "It's a weapon of silence. They want to drown us in darkness." Elias closed his eyes for a moment, thinking fast. "What if we overload it?" he said suddenly. The AI hesitated. "That would destroy both fleets." He nodded. "Then it's worth it." He looked at Lysera. "You wanted the galaxy to be free. This is how it starts." The Queen met his gaze, her voice low and steady. "Then let's finish this together." They ordered the fleet to concentrate all remaining energy toward the core of the null wave device. The ships responded instantly, light building until the void itself began to tremble. A final command echoed through the radio. "For Earth, for freedom, for the forgotten," Elias said. Then Vanguard's echo unleashed its entire core. A beam so bright it turned night into dawn. The explosion shattered the silence of centuries. The null wave imploded, tearing through the Empire's armada in a single blinding pulse. When the light faded, the Leviathan was gone. The Council's fleet reduced to drifting fragments. Only a few ships from Elias's alliance remained, scarred, broken but alive. The Queen opened her eyes slowly, watching the light fade from the battlefield. "It's over," she whispered. Elias leaned against the console, exhausted but smiling. "No," he said softly. "It's just beginning." Across the galaxy, the signal of victory spread faster than any fleet. Worlds that had once feared the Empire now celebrated under free skies. The name of humanity burned across the stars once more. Children of alien worlds whispered it like a prayer. And the legend of the engineer who woke the Queen became a story no one would ever forget. The Queen turned to Elias, her voice full of quiet pride. "The Empire is gone. But what will you do now?" He looked at the stars through the shattered bridge glass. "Rebuild," he said simply, "because that's what humans do best." The war was over. The silence that followed stretched across the galaxy like a deep breath after centuries of chaos. The stars that once burned with the fire of battle now shone peacefully again, reflecting across the scarred hulls of drifting ships and liberated worlds. For the first time in living memory, the Empire was gone. And in its place rose something new, a fragile unity built not on fear, but on truth. Elias Ward stood on the bridge of Vanguard's echo, staring out into the endless sea of stars. The great ship floated above a young blue planet near the rim of the galaxy, its light shimmering like Earth reborn. The human fleet, once thought extinct, now served as guardians of peace, standing beside the Queen's restored throne. But the galaxy was still healing. Thousands of worlds looked to Elias and Lysera not as rulers, but as symbols, reminders of what courage and faith could build. Queen Lysera approached quietly, her golden robes reflecting the soft glow of the command deck. "You should be resting," she said gently. Elias smiled faintly. "Humans never rest when there's rebuilding to do." She chuckled softly. "Some things never change." Her eyes lingered on him for a moment, filled with warmth and sadness. "The galaxy owes you everything," she said. Elias shook his head. "The galaxy owes truth to itself, not to me." The AI appeared beside them, its holographic form glowing with calm blue light. "Reconstruction efforts have begun across 13 sectors," it reported. The Union of Free Worlds is officially established. Lysera looked at the stars. The Union, she said quietly. It sounds like a dream, Elias replied. Dreams are where everything human begins. He walked toward the central viewport, his gaze lost in the swirling clouds of the new dawn. Below them, the Queen's fleet and the human warships worked side by side, rebuilding colonies, repairing orbit stations, helping the lost and the hungry for once. The tools of war became instruments of hope. But deep inside, Elias felt the weight of something greater, a pull calling him beyond the edge of known space. Lysera noticed his silence. You're leaving, aren't you? She said softly. Elias didn't answer immediately, his eyes still fixed on the distant stars. There are still human outposts out there, he said at last. Sleeping fleets, forgotten colonies, echoes of who we were. They need to be found. The Queen stepped closer. You've given enough, she said. You've already saved us all. He smiled gently. Humans don't save for gratitude, Your Majesty. We save because it's who we are. He turned toward the AI. Prepare the jump coordinates, he said quietly. The AI nodded. Destination unknown. Lysera looked at him, her expression unreadable. If you go, she said, the galaxy will lose its brightest flame. Elias looked back at her, his tone soft but steady. Then light another one, he said. Because no legacy belongs to one person. It belongs to everyone who dares to believe. They stood in silence for a long moment. The hum of the ship, the gentle pulse of energy, the quiet rhythm of destiny. Everything felt alive again. Lysera finally whispered, Will I ever see you again? Elias smiled faintly. Look at the stars, he said, and you'll know where we are. The Queen stepped back as Vanguard's echo began to rise, its engines glowing brighter than ever before. The ship's hull shimmered, and the eagle emblem of Earth gleamed like it was carved from light itself, all across the system. Ships and stations stopped to watch the last Terran warship ascend into hyperspace. A hush fell over the worlds, followed by a whisper that spread like a prayer. They're out there, they said, humans among the stars. As the ship vanished into the brilliance of the jump gate, a small message appeared across the galactic network. A single transmission, unsigned but carrying Elias's voice. It played everywhere, from the poorest moon to the richest capital, from the Queen's palace to the smallest colony outpost. To whoever hears this, Elias said, his tone steady and warm, remember this truth. Humanity is not defined by power, or fear, or war. We are defined by what we build, by what we protect, by how we rise again, no matter how many times we fall. If you find this message, know that you are part of that legacy. Because humanity was never lost, it was waiting for you. When the message ended, silence filled the stars once more. The Queen stood alone at the window of her palace, watching the streak of light fade beyond the horizon. Her voice was quiet but strong. Farewell, human, she whispered. May your stars never dim. Years later, children across the galaxy learned the story of the man who walked into the Queen's chamber by mistake and changed the fate of all civilizations. They called him many names, the accidental savior, the human ghost, the engineer of destiny. But among the old fleets and the free worlds, he was remembered by one word alone, human, and somewhere beyond the reach of maps, among the scattered fragments of forgotten light, a single warship glided through the void, its engines glowing like a heartbeat, guided not by orders, not by war, but by purpose, carrying within its hull the eternal legacy of mankind. For even in silence, even in darkness, humanity still whispered to the stars, we're still here.